Hello, everybody, and welcome into Tuesday Night Thunder Season 4, Race 15 at the high banks of Talladega Superspeedway. That's where we make our stop tonight. Thank you all so much for tuning in. You are watching Austin Green on PGR eSports. Dawson Wise, normally our co-host, of course, but he is not here tonight. I believe he is celebrating with the team. Of course, Tennessee winning the Men's College World Series just last night, so they had a parade today. That is why he is not joining us, but expecting him to be back next week. Nonetheless, speaking for myself, it certainly is good to be back. We got a cutoff race here tonight with the Championship 4 coming up next week, so let's jump right into it. Looking at your starting grid here tonight, taking the pole, it's going to be Garrett Maines, puts down a 54.175. Andrew Navarro will roll off on his outside in second. Matthew Baker, one of the drivers who has been on fire just about at every point of the season. He's looking to be a lock and advancing to the championship for next week. David Sheets back in that fourth position. Richard Elliott in fifth, with Mark Vondell from McCullough Motorsports in sixth. Kenneth Stamper in seventh, with Jason Maines back in eighth, Jeff Merck ninth, and Trevor Ozernoth for KSR rounding out your top 10. Michael Triscaro starts in the 11th position with Nathan Harper to his outside in 12th. Moving on back to row number 7. Looks like, oh, hold on, just before we do, I do have to set up just a couple more things for these guys here real quick. And as we do so, continue to roll. It's Landon Velicky starting in that 13th spot with Mike Davenport in 14th. And then moving on back to the 15th position, it's Ethan Eckert making his first start of the season here tonight. Jared Haynes in 16th, with Evan Carlbon in 17th, Brandon Broadfoot in 18th, Jonathan Herbert 19th, and Dylan Jones rounding out your top 20. Logan York will roll 21st here tonight. Daniel Eberhardt in 22nd. Matt Lee back in 23rd, with Joshua McCullough in 24th. And then rounding out the top 25 is going to be Justin Mills. Brock Westmoreland to his outside in 26th. Ken McCullough Jr. in 27th. Tucker McClendon back in 28th. Jimmy Emos and Christopher McCullough round out the field as they start 29th and 30th. Looking at your race info here tonight. Again, it is race 15, but more importantly, it is a cutoff race in the round of 8. Going to eliminate 4 drivers after tonight and move on to the championship race, not next week, but the week after. Next week will be an off week. We are in the NASCAR Xfinity Series as we've been all season, 75 laps, 15 laps longer than the regular season races here for the playoffs, and then the championship will be even longer than this. 45% is the fuel mileage that these guys can make. Unlimited tires, no fast repair. Fixed setups as always, and that stage break that will be on lap 30. 104 degrees starting track temp here tonight. Talladega Superspeedway, 2.65 miles in length, over 30 degrees of banking in the corner, 82 degrees outside, cloudy skies, winds at 5 miles an hour, and we are ready to go racing. We'll set the playoff picture for you here pretty briefly after we get going in the race. Who's in the good, who isn't? One thing I can tell you for sure is that 2 of the top 3, Maines and Baker, they are well in the good. We'll see what they can do here tonight as they'll continue their battle to determine who is going to be the champion. Green flag is in the air. We're underway at Talladega. Side by side, they go down the Alabama gang back straightaway up front. Garrett Maines leads the inside. They are 3-car tandemed up on the bottom as Richard Elliott makes his presence known. Good to see him back in the series. As right now, again, sitting in that 3rd position, but further back, it's still the Mad Scatter to kind of find a spot in line, find somebody that you can work with and try to get in a rhythm here. 75 laps, plenty of ways to go if you want to try to take it easy right now, right in the back, but depending on what you're trying to do here tonight, is David Sheets is going to now bail to the outside. He'll go to the back of the pack as he feels like maybe the energy is a little bit too much up front right now. So as he does, filling in that gap will be Jeff Merck and Andrew Navarro along with Jason Maines as they get things tightened back up a little bit now on this outside, but still not enough organization for either lane to really prevail. Matthew Baker now finds the lead on the bottom as Garrett Maines is rolling up top. Kenneth Stamper in the 30. He's got a teammate just behind him there with Trevor Ozernoth. See if those two can do anything. And so as we work through 3 and 4 here, I was making sure that everything got off to a clean start. But again, we need to set the playoff picture so that everybody kind of has an idea of what we're looking at here tonight. Now, the drivers on track, whether they're going for the championship next week or not, everybody knows there's individual payouts on the line here tonight. But if you're one of those guys that has a P next to their name in that scoring tower, that means that you are still fighting to potentially be crowned a Tuesday Night Thunder champion. But you got to advance to the round of 4 next week in order to be able to have a chance at it. So here's what it looked like coming into this race here tonight. Point standings, that is. Matthew Baker leads. How about this? He's got 6 wins on the season. I mean, that is just absolutely ridiculous when you look at the schedule. That's probably at least over a quarter of the races that we've ran in total. We saw him get the season started with a win, and seems like he has been on a hot streak ever since then. Garrett Maines currently sits second in points, and while he's only got 1 win on the season, he has got plenty of stage wins to back it up, and that's what's got him as high as he runs in points. The gap between him and Matthew Baker, well, right now on the racetrack is nothing. They run side by side, but in that points battle, looks like it sits at about 15, make it 16 points right now between those two. That's not a lot of distance, especially when you've got a 30-car field. So they're both going to be fighting really hard, especially for the stage win, and then potentially later on for the race win. Michael Triscaro with the victory sits third in points, and then Logan York, who also has found himself in victory lane once this season, he rounds out the top 4, sitting right on that cutoff line. Jeff Merck just below it, and the separation between York and Merck, with York being just above, Merck being just below, is only 2 points. So every point they can get here tonight, whether it's leading the lap, whether it's winning that stage, winning the race, is going to determine between those two who makes it to the next round. And then, of course, with the win and you're in format, you look at a guy like, I mean, Andrew Navarro's still within range, but I'm looking back to Brock Westmoreland and Jason Maines, who realistically, I think they're going to need a win to make it happen here tonight. I mean, Jason Maines is 36 points behind the cutoff. May not be impossible to get in on points, but it's certainly going to be a tough one, and you might as well call it impossible with the way things are running right now. 5 to 75 laps complete. And so with that being what the points look like, the next thing that we'll talk about, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit, is how that championship race format is going to look like. Not the typical setup to what we would normally see. And so I'm a little bit interested myself in how they're going to set it up. Point is, what it is a head-to-head battle between your top 4, and then a head-to-head battle between your 5th through 8th. So let's say Matthew Baker, Garrett Maines, and then you throw in 2 others into the mix that finish in your top 4. Let's say Logan York and Michael Triscaro, the way it runs now. You could have Garrett Maines versus Matthew Baker, and then you could have Michael Triscaro versus Logan York. Or they might do it in terms of the seeding where it's the 1st seed versus the 4th seed. I don't know. The point is, the different format has certainly made things interesting, and a lot of guys are going to have a chance to potentially make some big money, not only this week, but potentially next week as well. 2x2 still at the front of the field. Andrew Navarro leading the outside as Garrett Maines has slipped back to 2nd in that lane. Jeff Merck in 3rd behind him. There's Jason Maines, who we talked about realistically is probably going to need a win here tonight. And so Jason, I don't know if he's going to be trying to help out any teammates, if he's even got any out here too much, but he's done a great job so far this season to get himself this far. And certainly one of the seasoned veterans in money racing and super speedway racing in general. And definitely, I feel like Jason's certainly due for one. In fact, if we go back all the way to, might have been the 1st or 2nd season of Tuesday Night Thunder, I believe somewhere in there, Jason may have won the regular season championship. Don't think he's going to be contending, or obviously wasn't contending for that this season, but still a good run. Nathan Harper, currently the last car in the field as he sits in 30th. He's down 18 positions from where he started this race at, so you got to think that was a little bit of a decision that he just wanted to go to the back and ride this thing out for a little bit. We've got a couple others doing that. As for your playoff drivers, looks like Michael Triscaro is currently running the farthest back of them all as he sits all the way back in that 18th position. He's got the prime colors in the 34 as he'll be racing a course on Thursday night this week. Make sure you tune into that. Going to be another good one as we continue to gear up for the Summer Slam coming on July 27th and 28th. And from what I've heard, entries looking pretty good so far. So hopefully they keep coming in, and we are already on pace to have a really solid looking field. And of course, that $1,000 guaranteed doesn't even consider field size, and that prize could go up, or at least the purse payout itself would go up if we can get more drivers than what was initially expected. So Jared Haynes in 15th. Brock Westmoreland, another one of the playoff guys who's probably going to need a win here tonight. as he runs in the middle of those two. Michael Triscaro, his teammate, owner of PGR eSports, is going to look to the outside as he's trying to get any takers here. Mike Davenport, will he go with him? Oh, big stack up in the middle. Logan York, now Davenport's going to check up. Westmoreland will cut him a break. And so looking at some of the other onboard shots that we have here tonight, up at the front, Matthew Baker, as always, carrying the driver cam for us. Baker right now leading that outside line with Garrett Maines just on his inside. And you can see where he runs those left side tires right on that white line, and then as Garrett starts to get a run, he tries to duck it down just a little bit lower. He's trying to pull a side draft on that one car, and that's what you got to do. If you're trying to stay even or potentially fight for the lead on that outside line, you know you'll get more momentum on the straightaways, but you got to side draft in the corners for that momentum to mean anything down the straights. Matthew Baker, one of the best at it. Now Garrett will jump up to allow Navarro to cool. That puts Baker in charge of the lead position. Look at that. I mean, just like a feather. Barely gets to his back bumper there. And then once he's locked on, that's when he'll put the hammer back down and really start pushing as they work their way through the tribal. Garrett will get back clear, but look at this. 3 wide up top. Here comes the 27 in the 02. Teammates for Blind Squirrel Racing, Logan York in the playoffs. Tucker McClendon not, but they both have got the same goal right here. Trying to go to the front. They're going to need at least one more car. We'll see if Michael Triscaro maybe thinks about jumping up right here. Doesn't look like anybody's going to be a taker yet. And so if they can't get any help here, Logan York, Tucker McClendon, they're going to continue to fade all the way to the back. Now track temp is, I would say, about moderate here tonight. Not super hot, but by no means cool either. So that third lane is something that you're going to be able to get working. And as soon as the temps are heated up on that inside and middle, it's going to be able to roll, but just didn't have enough help there. You got to have at least 3 cars, 4 probably a little bit more favorable, but they'll learn. Again, everybody just kind of getting a feel right now for what they've got, who they can work with. As we take a peek now at the 78 Toyota Supra of Evan Carlbon making his first start of the season here tonight. Good to see him having a good run early. He's not picked up or lost any positions from where he started, but again, getting a feel here in the pack with all the drafting action. A couple spots back, we find Brandon Broadfoot. We'll see what he can do here tonight. Looks like he's got the number 22 WeatherTech Chevy Camaro. Joshua McCullough just behind him. Justin Mills for BAR back in 23rd. Matt Lee 24th. Daniel Eberhardt, D3 in the field here tonight. He's in 25th. And you know things are pretty calm when you've got some of those guys sitting towards the back. Now, I should credit some of that to the fact that there's no fast repair here tonight as it's been all season. So if you get aggressive and get yourself caught up in a wreck, it could be a night ender. So I think the only guys that you're going to see staying aggressive for now is going to be everybody that is fighting to make it to that championship 4. Well, Devin Ray in the chat asking what fuel mileage is looking like, and I'm sure Devin's got the volume off, so we'll let you guys know, and then you can let him know. 45% should get these guys somewhere around the lap 20 range, maybe give or take 2 laps. So I'd say anywhere from probably 19 to 20. Well, we'll be more conservative for the first stop and say 18 to 22 would be my general guess, somewhere right in that window. So they are going to have to make a pit stop here before they get to this stage break. Question's just going to be, when do you make it down? They can go again about probably another, give or take, 6 to 9 laps, somewhere in that region, maybe 6 to 10 laps, in fact, on this tank of fuel, depending on whether or not you're running up front, as Garrett Maines and Matthew Baker have done a lot of, or if you're sitting further back in the pack, such as Trevor Osmanoff, Mark Vondell, Jeff Merck. By the way, Jeff Merck, another one of the drivers that we have carrying an onboard camera for us here tonight. Jeff just below the cut line coming into tonight, but he is looking to advance, and it seems like the bad luck has finally started to turn around for Jeff Merck over the course of this season, after seeming like he was, I think Baker called him a sacrificial lamb for NBG Motorsports for a majority of any money racing series for any season, but now that he's turned that around, it has translated into a really, really good season for Jeff. You'd like to see him potentially fighting for a championship, but you know, I was looking before the race and we talked about it. The names that are in that round of 8 looking to advance to the championship 4, I could not pick out which 4 I could tell you I thought would go versus which ones aren't. I mean, all 8 of them have been dominant at different points in the season, and all 8 of them are phenomenal drivers that have a great chance at it. It's just kind of that right place, right time. You know, maybe somebody steals a win, that kicks somebody out of it that realistically maybe wasn't expecting to be out of it at the start of this thing. Just depends on how it all unfolds. But there's a look at Jared Haynes, another one of our onboard drivers tonight in the 7. And remember, he did make it to the playoffs this season. He came oh so close to advancing to the round of 8. Couldn't quite do it, but the driver out of Huntsville has certainly made a name for himself this season. A couple of phenomenal finishes, a couple payouts. And so I'm sure he'll be back next season with a fire to make it all the way through to the championship 4. And then last but certainly not least, one of the non-playoff drivers as well. And one of the fan favorites, KSR's very own Trevor Oswanoff. I like the hometown that he's got listed, south side of Augusta. And that is, again, one of the guys who made it to the playoffs but just couldn't quite advance to the round of 8. So Trevor, a multi-time winner in multiple different money racing series, but I'm thinking PGR and what he's done over there. The Xfinity cars, by the way, I know we're running them here throughout the season, but this is the car that's going to be ran in the SummerSlam, so this is good practice for all these drivers. And I think still arguably one of the best series when it comes to the product, at least racing. But here we go. We'll hold that thought. Pit stops underway. First one of the night here. Can everybody getting clean? A lot of cars here, all trying to funnel down to a very narrow pit lane. And it looks like they're all going to get in okay. Wow, nicely done, everybody. As that was initially looked like it was going to be a little bit sketchy, but everybody got down without any issues. And so the first pit stop of the night is going to yield probably about half to 3/4 of the field as Garrett Maines let him in. Andrew Navarro, Matthew Baker just behind. You see Maines has that first pit stall as he got by qualifying on the pole. And it looks like Maines is going to win the battle out, and they'll come out for the most part the same way they came in. Looks like Logan York, David Sheets, and a couple others trying to get it sorted out before they try to get back up to speed. And so as these guys start to work their way through the apron, we'll see, do we get the second group in this time? Yes, we do. Looks like everybody, oh, hold on to it. Trevor Oswanoff gets into his teammate, the captain, Kenneth Stamper. He's going to tag the inside wall as he comes back up. Looks like Landon's going to be able to miss him in the 62. Jason Maines trying to find somewhere to go. And oh, he almost gets into Mills. Jason fighting for any sort of real estate right now that he can get. Wow, that was a big moment, and that's some damage to the 30 of Stamper there. It was a good save and an overall good job of making sure he didn't get into anybody else, but that damage could certainly affect him here a little bit. And that was just Trevor getting in a little bit too hot as he got on the brakes, locked him up, and got into his teammate. But looks like Stamper's going to return that damage not too bad, so I don't think it's going to affect his chances of staying in the draft or anything like that. As we look at the turn 1 entry cam, there's Garrett Maines and company as they're going to go blowing by at least half of this pack, potentially all of them. And it's just a question now of how many of these guys can hold on. Davenport and Maines had a phenomenal stop. Trevor Oswanoff hanging in there as well. But they're going to have to merge up pretty quick here. I think they will be able to hang within drafting range. And you guys know as well as I do that once that's the case, the pull that they're going to have is going to be plenty to get back even, as there goes Dylan Jones, Matt Lee, and Daniel Eberhardt as they'll overlap these guys. Here comes Logan York, David Sheets. But just about here as they get off of turn 4, Maines and Davenport are about back up to full speed here. And so everybody matching about the same pace again, and things will start to all close up as this group being led by Garrett Maines, containing Andrew Navarro, Matthew Baker, and Jeff Merck. They had a good pit stop, but it was not enough for them to be able to pull away from anybody. So they had a temporary gap, but the draft is the great equalizer. So that's getting ready to get closed up as Navarro gives Maines a shot through 1 and 2. And looking at, who really needs this stage win versus who doesn't, I would say, Garrett's sitting second in points. He doesn't really need the stage win, but with how the head-to-head battle goes next week, no idea how that's going to work. Garrett would probably like to grab this stage win, grab a couple extra points, see if he can't maybe pull ahead of Matthew Baker in that points category. Again, he was 16 points behind, and a stage win would certainly help. But 3 wide now as there goes Jones, Lee, and Eberhardt. They're going to look to make a march here around the top lane. Jones, does he have enough to get clear? He does. Not sure if he's trying to pull Lee with him, but he's going to have to drop eventually. Does he take it here? Yes, he does. He'll drop down to the middle. Not quite enough to get clear, at least not yet. 3 by 3 into turn number 1 is now Lee is going to start to fade. Eberhardt still up there, though. Sheets looked like he was ready to roll, too, but he's now going to jump back down to the middle. Going to be coming to 20 laps complete as they cross the line this next time around, and that means that it'll be 11 laps to go in stage 1. Everybody is good to go on fuel now for the rest of the stage, but they will have to make a stop, of course, at the stage, top off on fuel, maybe take tires, depending on what you feel like you want to do for strategy. And so, looks like we did drop off a couple of cars. Oh, man, Kenneth Stamper, one of them. I didn't think the damage was that bad. Not sure if that's what's costing him or if it's that he just got a bad exit. I'm thinking it's the damage here. It looks like 176 flat by himself. And as this group comes along, it'll help him speed up a little bit here. We'll see if he's able to stick with these guys. But this group in and of itself is a pretty big group. I'm surprised to see that many cars that weren't able to stick with the lead draft. As got a 62 leading. Evan just behind him. Evan, oh, hold on. Oh, we got one shootout line. Oh, the 22 is going to go around. Nathan Harper goes for a spin to the inside wall. Is he able to save it? No, he's going to hit the inside wall. We stay green as I think everybody else saved it, but Nathan Harper with heavy damage to his Ford Mustang as the back end has been completely ripped off. And even the nose was pretty beat up as well, it looked like. Well, there was a whole jumbled mess that kind of started there down the back, and I guess nobody was really able to hold on to it at the end of the day. And that damage, I don't know if he's going to be able to stay out and keep running with that. See what the dashboard speed looks like. Yeah, he's hurting. We'll see if Harper decides to bring it down to the pits here or if he tries to stay out. Well, he might be able to limp this thing around to the stage break. I will say that is, there goes two of the McCullough Motorsports cars around him. That's Ken and Chris. We'll see if he can pull any toe off of them. But what in the world happened here to Nathan Harper? Let's back this thing up and see if we can't figure it out. Actually, this was the crash. Was Jimmy Emos potentially involved? Couldn't tell here. All right, so they're going around Kenneth Stamper here. Seems like no harm, no foul. There goes Jason on the outside. And then as they get off of turn 2 here, ooh, there's a bit of a stack up, and that stack up is where the trouble really starts here. So that's the 67 who gets out of shape up top. So that is Jimmy Emos. And then we'll go to the chopper view. Watch that stack up translate back. So, well, I'm still not sure what caused Jimmy to check up right here. See, he's running in line fine. And then I'm not really sure. I feel like he checked up a little bit early. You know, to be fair, Jason was trying to slot in line, but Jimmy has a good save here, but that checkup on the outside causes Harper to have to get out of it. Michael Triscaro tries to do the same, but unfortunately he gets into the 22, and then once Harper gets turned here, he gets clipped by the 87 of Jonathan Herbert. That rips the front end of his hood off, or rips the front hood off, rather. And it looks like it flies back on, but then Harper here not quite able to stop before he hits that inside safer barrier. All right, so as we go back live, we turn our attention back to the front because the 3-wide action still hot and heavy as Garrett Maines leads the bottom. Dylan Jones leads the middle. Matthew Baker, though, now has found himself getting buried a little bit. In fact, he is all the way back to 4th in the middle as Merckx got himself in pretty good position. 2nd, pushing Jones, and then Sheets and Maines on the outside trying to get something to happen. Jason knows that any points he could get would help his chances, even though I still think he's probably going to need a win to advance. Dawson will normally be our points analyst, but we don't have him here tonight, so we're doing the best we can with the mental math. As Garrett now trying to work the lanes a little bit. You saw him jump back up. Dylan staying patient, committed to pushing, but I think that middle lane as a whole is maybe starting to get a little bit impatient, and I think sooner or later here, we're going to start seeing some 3-wide. Jeff Merckx going to peek to the high side. I think he was just looking for a little bit of air, but Osmanoff is looking for more than air. He wants to gain some positions here. Tucker McClendon on the apron. Some sort of issue for him. As looks like Jimmy Emos, by the way, is the only car currently sitting a lap down. So the 3-wide action still just really not able to get formed up. Sheets and Maines are going to duck back down in line. And so Osmanoff is saying, what the heck, guys? I jumped up to try to help y'all. And everybody just left him out to dry. So we'll see if Trevor decides to go back with these guys later on. As the 05 of Joshua McCullough looks to make a move here. He'll see if he can link up with Trevor. There's the 2 of the onboard views for 2 of the different drivers that we have at the front of this field. Daniel Eberhard dicing through as he finds his way back to the inside. The 90, we got a chance to talk with him last week in PGR. And he was saying how, you know, he took a little bit of a break and just how competitive things were and how tough it is to come back after break, even being as talented as he is, and try to, you know, come up and just run competitive each and every race, every lap. I mean, when you think about it, each one of these guys, I mean, I could name probably half to 3/4 of the drivers in this front group they are money racing every single night of the week. And so as a result, they've got practice that a lot of people don't get a chance to get. They know every single move, every piece of the racetrack, when to make moves, who to go with, how to make them. And, oh, man, squirrely out of line was Logan York. Wow, that car started wiggling around as now he is caught in no man's land. Up to the middle, him and Dylan Jones are getting into a little bit of a pissing match, if you will, right here. And they're going to continue to get into a pissing match until they wreck right here, as caution is out. So that was, I assume, actually for the stages. I don't see any other wrecks, so looks like the stage break might have been moved up, as it seems like, I hate to be that guy, but all season, I give up. I mean, I cannot figure out. I look at the flyers for what we got for stage laps, and every week, regardless of what I think it is, it ends up being something different. So this is the stage break. Wish we would have known that, and we could have, of course, known what to look for here on the last lap, and maybe why things picked up and got a little bit more aggressive. But the flyer that we had, and the information we had pre-race, says stage break the end of lap 30, and that was not the case. So Garrett Maines is your stage winner. Jeff Merck brings home second in the stage, it looks like. Matthew Baker rounding out the podium. So overall, pretty crazy way to end things there, as I think Logan York and Dylan Jones weren't too happy with each other. But how about the battle for the stage finish? I mean, this was a very, very close finish up front, as Merck and Maines go side by side here, but it's going to be Garrett Maines by just a nose, as he had a push for a little bit longer, as you saw Matthew Baker kind of fade out at the line. But what happened here to Logan York and Dylan Jones? It got these two so heated with each other. Let's see here. Logan looking for the middle. Dylan says, I don't think so. And then Logan says, I don't think so either. Hey, no harm, no foul. Those two may have butt heads a little bit, but nobody got in a wreck, so we'll keep everything going. So 27 laps complete. We're going to go green now with about 30 laps complete. When we do go back green, is expecting a pit stop here. Everybody to top off on fuel. Maybe take tires as well. So Garrett Maines will lead them all down. And Garrett, again, talked about needed that stage win to help him close the gap on Matthew Baker. He is by far the winningest stage driver in Tuesday Night Thunder. Look like coming into tonight, he had 7 stage wins. This will be his 8th, of course. And compare that to Matthew Baker, who's the second most stage wins. He's got 2, and then Jeff Merck had 1. So it's a lot of stage wins that Garrett Maines racked up, and talked about when it comes down to each and every point. That kind of stuff is important. And so Garrett Maines showing you that even with only 1 win to Matthew Baker's 6 wins, that consistency and grabbing all those extra points certainly has paid off. All right, so as they work their way out of the pits, Garrett Maines will lead off. And looks like Logan York is going to actually come out of the pit second, so a little bit of a gain for him. As let's see if we can bring Logan York up here and see maybe him and Dylan Jones aren't the best of friends right about now. Hey, Logan, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
What's up, Austin? I got you.
Not much. Well, man, we were watching a pretty intense finish to the stage there. First question I got is, it looked like you and Logan getting a little, or excuse me, you and Dylan getting a little bit physical there as you came to the line. Was that just you guys both fighting for the same lane, or were you two maybe not too happy with each other there coming to the line?
Well, I don't really like Dylan, so I was willing to push him up to get a stage point. Or, a point there. That's pretty much all it was.
Well, and that kind of leads to the next point, though. I was going to say, you came in just above the cutoff line, and as close as it is, you just mentioned how important it was to fight for even that one extra stage point. But, we look towards the end of the race here, and, things can happen in the sense of, let's say we get somebody way outside the cut line that wins, and that pushes you out. So how does that kind of affect the mindset? Do you go all out? Do you go for the win here? Or do you just kind of try to keep racking up the points and go for a decent top 5?
Yeah, that's why I, when you asked me earlier if my mindset changes for the playoffs, I said it didn't, because I race every race the same. I race like I want to win everything. So it's kind of one of the benefits is I don't really have to change my mindset, because I'm already kind of where I want to be for the championship race.
Well, you've already got one win this season. Number 2 tonight would be a good time to get it. Appreciate you talking to us, Logan. And we appreciate the insight there on that battle coming to the stage. We'll see if we're talking to you at the end of the race.
Of course, thank you. See you at the Infield Care Center.
There you go. Hey, he's being optimistic, or maybe that's counter-optimistic. Hey, point being, Logan York, one of the reasons everybody... I'll tell you what, I remember when he first came onto the money racing scene, a lot of people did not like his attitude, but that same attitude is what has made him now one of the best money racers around iRacing. And sometimes people like to hear that honest opinion, and I liked it. He said it. He said, hey, I'm not a big fan of Dylan Jones, so I was more than happy to push him up the racetrack to get that extra stage point. The only problem now is he's got to hope that Dylan Jones isn't listening to the broadcast and says, oh, okay, I'll remember that for the end of this race if we're anywhere close to each other. As he works his way out to the pits, but here we go, gearing up for a restart. On the front row, Maines and Baker, and then Jeff Merck and Richard Elliott in row number 2, Mike Davenport and Brock Westmoreland in row 3. Looks like you got David Sheets, Jason Maines in row 4, and then back in row 5, the 62 and the 78. So if you're Garrett Maines, well, it's not really a question, because I'll tell you what, for Garrett Maines, Matthew Baker, Jeff Merck, even some of the non-playoff guys up here, you know, every race I sit here and say, well, you know, now we've got, 45 laps to run. Does that change the game plan for, some of these guys that are looking good on points? Do they maybe play conservative until the end so that they've got something to work with? Don't get involved in a wreck. But tell you what, stats don't lie. The guys who have stayed up front throughout the entire races, they're the guys that have had the best finishes. So I don't think Matthew Baker is going to shy away from trying to lead laps, and I don't think Garrett Maines has any plans to do anything else either. We'll have to see what goes on here, but keep an eye on that 31 car, Brock Westmoreland. We talked about he's one of the kind of needs to win to get in scenarios, especially if Logan York's able to have a good night. So watch for that 31 to get up on the saddle here and see if he can't try to get to the lead here. So 30 laps complete as they'll cross the line. That means that we are expecting, looks like, I believe, 2 more pit stops. One sometime, well, actually, it's going to be pretty close. Expecting, actually, it'll be just 1 pit stop sometime around 22. It'll be close on whether or not they can make it all the way. Here we go. Green flag is back in the air. 46 laps to go. Down into turn 1. 2 by 2 for the front 5. Make it 6, actually, as it extends all the way back to, looks like, is that Joshua McCullough in the 05? And then already the 34, Michael Triscaro, he jumped that line. He saw that there was some checking up on the bottom and realized he could gain quite a bit by going to the top here. So he'll try to see if he can get to the back of Joshua McCullough before that inside starts to group back up. Here comes Logan York. Daniel Eberhardt. Boy, Logan York had a bunch of speed, but Daniel Eberhardt says no thanks, as he'll jump in line just in front of Dylan Jones. And that shows you the strategy those two have in mind. They are going to save, and I'll tell you why, because I said it was going to be close. Well, think about when we just went green. 46 laps to go, and remember the fuel window, the farthest I think these guys can make it saving is maybe somewhere 22, but if you can stretch it to 23, then you can make this thing on 1 stop. Otherwise, you're going to have to bring it down twice. So we've seen fuel mileage before, and we've seen a couple guys who have made it work. And we'll see what happens here tonight, but I think that by Daniel Eberhardt jumping in line back there, when he had a great run to go to the front, that should tell you that he does not want to get too antsy just yet. Brandon Broadfoot in the 22, Andrew Navarro in the 44. A Supra and a Camaro working their way to the front as the outside continues to get more organization further back, and now they're just waiting for the cavalry to arrive. Looking at Richard Elliott, the job he does. This is another driver that I really don't spend enough time talking about, and the progress he's made, again, since he came onto the money racing scene less than a year ago. And, of course, first knew Richard from one of the leagues that I broadcasted for, which wasn't an SS league, but I think he had certainly taken a liking to not only super speedway racing, but money racing in general. And, I mean, he has became what was a driver who initially maybe ran mid-pack for the first couple weeks and just continued to learn, got better and better. And I would say by the time he had been racing for a month, he was getting consistent top 5s, top 10s, bearing no bad luck or no wreck. And he continues to show that momentum and how far it's taken him here tonight as he runs in the top 5, doing a phenomenal job. It's Richard Elliott up front, 3 wide. Logan York, Michael Triscaro rode a huge run all the way to the front. And it came to stop there. Michael Triscaro going to drop down in front of Richard Elliott. And, man, Logan York saying, what do I have to do? As he was a big part in pushing guys to the front, but he's not going to get any help as now he'll fade and have to jump in line just behind the 22 of Brendan Broadfoot. Matthew Baker leading the outside. Garrett Maines leads the bottom. As you can see, that single file line continues to extend further and further. A couple of the McCullough Motorsports drivers towards the back, Ken McCullough Jr. and Mark Von Dell in the 59 there, and then Matt Lee kind of in the middle. Justin Mills, Dylan Jones, Daniel Eberhard, Joshua McCullough, and Christopher McCullough. 78 in the 7, that's Evan Carlbon and Jared Haynes, along with Ethan Eckert. By the way, Ethan Eckert is the 12 Snap-on, and then Jason Maines is the 12 Lennox and Premier on the hood there, so don't get those two mixed up. Same number, but two different paint schemes. So they come to 34 laps complete, and they cross the line this time. And as things stay 2 by 2, it's just the 22 now, who's 3 wide briefly as he gets even there with Brock Westmoreland and Jonathan Herbert, but I don't think he's going to go really much further than that. As, well, I said Jonathan Herbert in the 87 there on the bottom, but now Logan York back at the line. Ooh, man, that was close. He got a little bit offset on Broadfoot. That could have spelled disaster there, as he wants to go to the front, and you can tell he's willing to be aggressive. Sometimes that pays off, but you got to be careful, because if Logan gets himself into a wreck here, that would probably end his chances at advancing to the next round with as close as he sits on that cutoff line. York knowing more than anybody that you have got to stay aggressive even through the corners here, and you just got to hope that the guy you're pushing is as comfortable taking the pushes as you are giving them. Garrett Maines, Matthew Baker, a little bit of separation here. That might be enough to get the 22 clear. Nope. Now Logan York's going to have to fade to cool off a little bit. Garrett Maines clear the bottom, but he's not going to take it. Now he does, as the run up top starts to fade back out. 3 by 3, 35 of 75 laps complete. And I want to look real quick here, as these guys continue to dice it up, at what the payouts are looking like here tonight. Or rather, excuse me, what the payouts are going to be looking like next week. And so, as we bring that up, this is going to be what the championship race is looking like, as, well, I thought it was. Looks like it has actually not updated yet. So, if you go ahead and get that corrected here real quick so that everybody watching has a chance to see what I'm talking about here. All right, now that we, well, do we have it updated? Oh, I updated the wrong one. Get that fixed up here just briefly, as on track to stay 3 wide for the middle portions of the pack. Brandon Broadfoot still leads that group. And then as we now shift our attention back to the left of the screen, there we go. So this is what the championship race format is, again, going to look like. So right now you see the guys that are the contenders. Those are all the drivers in the round of 8. 4 of them will be eliminated after tonight. We've talked plenty about that, but how about the payouts there for your champion? $400, $350 to second, $350 to third, $300 to fourth, $225 to fifth, $200 to sixth, $150 to seventh, and $125 to eighth. So everybody who has made it this far is already getting guaranteed money and making, well, I would say making money on the season, and you probably have, considering the road you had to take to get here. But I think that everybody, of course, has their eye on that $400, and there's the format of how it's supposed to work. Championship night, 1st through 4th are going to race head-to-head, and then 5th through 8th will also race head-to-head as well. So there'll be a couple questions going into that, of course, on how exactly that's going to work, but something a little different. Like to see guys shake it up a little bit. As Baker's mom says, York loves to wreck, I think. Well, I'll tell you what, I think he loves to be aggressive, which sometimes leads to wrecking, but that's what you got to do up here. Got to stay aggressive, especially with a field as talented as this one. By the way, it is good to see everybody in the chat. Again, if you're just tuning in, we appreciate you being here watching race 15, the cutoff race in the round of 8 for season 4 of Tuesday Night Thunder. Devin Ray, good to see you tuning in, although I know you can't even hear me saying it. But Baker's mom, as always, we appreciate you being here, and anybody else that is out watching here tonight. Looks like the 3-wide action has all but disintegrated now, back to 2 by 2 through majority of the field. And just as I say it, is Merck. I thought Merck was going to split him. Looks like he was just ducking out to get some air. And now that's causing a big stack up through that outside lane. looks like it is going to translate all the way back to about Logan York, and it goes no further from there. Brock Westmoreland still sitting towards the tail end of that outside line. Now, I have not seen a lot of fuel saving. How about Mike Davenport taking the lead, and he's going to jump to the outside right here. That gives David Sheets a chance to cool down. Andrew Navarro pushing him. Joshua McCullough trying to tighten up the gap as Davenport will quickly jump back down to the inside of the racetrack. 39 of 75 complete. Again, that first pit stop. And I say first because while we think that if there's anybody saving, it could be the only one. If you're not saving, that'll be the first of two, but should come somewhere right around lap 52. As again, we went back green 52 to 53. You're trying to stretch it to 53, but whether or not you can get there, that's where I think some of the questions are going to come into play. And it's going to be an interesting call. I don't know about these guys up front, but I look back to anybody in this second group, Jason Maines, especially Daniel Everhart and Dylan Jones, who were back saving early. I think they might have a good shot at it as Tucker McClendon, he is getting lapped here, and they're splitting him left, right, center here. As Dylan Jones actually looks like he's going to pick up the 27 right here. And they're also going to go by Nathan Harper in the 22. And remember, there was no fast car here tonight. That's why Nathan Harper's car still looks so banged up, because whatever damage he could get repaired was damage that he had to go get fixed optionally, so he wasn't even able to get it all repaired, it looked like here. And I think he's still got a lot that needs to be worked on, as that right rear is barely hanging on, it looks like. And so that car not certainly seen better days, but he's going to need a caution if he wants to get any more of it fixed up. Michael Triscaro in the 34 ducks the right side with his Chevy Camaro out of line a little bit so he can get some air as well. The 02 of Logan York has not made another move for a little while now. You wonder if he's decided to go into fuel save mode, or if he just realizes that he's not going to be able to gain any more track position unless he gets the help. Feels like the help's not going to be there, and decide to maybe just stick in line for now. But Garrett Maines doing a phenomenal job, as he's done all season here, as he controls the field. He's going to pull Jeff Merck clear this time. Interesting to see Jeff jump to the bottom right there. You almost wonder if that was an indication of pit stops, but seems way too soon, and there you go. Now he's going to jump back to the outside. Looked like Mike Davenport maybe tried to follow, but wasn't quite able to do it. And so Jeff going to pull two of his teammates back up to his rear bumper, Matthew Baker and Michael Triscaro, and that is a really, really good group to have linked up. Three of the NBG Motorsports cars, and they're going to be tough to contend with now. Garrett may still be able to control these lanes, but I don't know. Baker and Merck, the chemistry between those two goes way back. So we'll have to see what happens here. So as we go back to the 94, Christopher McCauley, you see he's still got the playoff banner, but of course was eliminated after the round of 16, so he did not advance to the round of 8. But a good run going so far as he's up 18 positions from where he started this race out. Remember, we had 30 cars start this thing, and since then, Tucker McClendon, whose car doesn't look to be too beat up, has fallen at least 2 down, potentially 3, as he again sits in that 30th position. Jimmy Emos in 29th. He sits 2 laps down, and Nathan Harper, who got damaged in an earlier incident which did not bring up caution, he also sits 2 laps down. So as things continue to remain pretty calm here, we're expecting those pit stops to get about 10 to 11 laps. So before we get to that, going to take a quick break, but we'll go side by side so you don't miss a thing. Stick with us. We'll be right back at Talladega.
green flag is in the air. We are racing.
3 by 3.
Almost no trouble. Around goes Alex Hill. On into the outside wall goes Hill. They're wrecking big time out back. We're not going to throw a caution. To the finish. Who gets it in the line? Cody Nagels wins it in Talladega.
Welcome back to Talladega Superspeedway, and yet again, the broadcaster gets corrected here. I don't know if these guys had less fuel than what is said on the flyer as well, but I mean, this pit stop just seems, I mean, ridiculously early. You know, 30 laps to go. We've only ran 15 since we went back green, and at that, you'd almost be more expecting that these guys only have 40% fuel when the flyer said 45, so I don't know anymore, but we're going to go ahead and shift the window, I guess, to 15. But that certainly eliminates, obviously, any chance of making this thing on a one-stop, and now it does obviously become a clean two-stop. 15 laps from now would put these guys at lap 60, and then 15 from then would be 75, the end of the race. So still going to be a pit stop expected as the second group all brings it out from their stop. Good news, though, is everybody got in relatively clean. Didn't have many, well, really, if any, issues there. So Garrett Maines, Matthew Baker, Mike Davenport, Logan York, they're all going to fan out as they spread around everybody who's just now made their pit stop and still getting back up to speed. But look at this. Navarro getting a bit of a pull off of Ozranoff as now he'll jump to the outside. But that allowed Navarro to hang even for a minute, but I think now the momentum on the outside is going to be enough to get Garrett Maines back clear the 44. We'll see if he chooses to drop down here when he gets it. Well, I said when he gets it. I guess I should have said if he gets it. Doesn't look like he was quite able to do it right there through the tri-oval and down the short chute. But look at this. Guess who? Daniel Eberhardt. Him and Dylan Jones. It's just always, where did they come from? I mean, they sit in the back, they save fuel, they go with what strategy they want to, and contrary to what a lot of guys like to do now in money racing, which is stay up front every lap, they like to stay in the back, and Daniel said it before, you can't win the race on the first lap, so, you know, he likes the idea of just sitting back, maybe have to take a little less fuel on one of these pit stops, and then kind of slowly and methodically get that track position out as we go through a race, and as we approach what's going to be 28 laps to go right here, he finds himself in the lead. Not a playoff driver, but I think if he would have made the entire season, we would have been talking about him and trying to advance to the championship 4 right about now. Navarro on the outside, though, in fact, make it 4, 5, 6 of the playoff drivers that are looking to advance to the round of 4. Right now are all lined up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On the inside is now Matthew Lee is going to jump out of line here. Looks like Daniel Eberhardt's going to choose to do the same. What happened there? Got to think this was a decision that these two decided to make. Maybe they didn't like leading at the front here. Yeah, so sure enough, they purposely chose to jump down there and drop out of line. I wonder if they think that they can obviously make it on just one more stop, but it's still close enough to where they'd like to save a little bit. Either way, whatever the case may be here, Garrett Maines has taken over on the bottom. Not for long, though. Matthew Baker gets clear off the bumper of Logan York, and now he'll drift down to the bottom. Logan York going to poke a nose out in front. For the first time here tonight, he is leading and has the help. Brandon Broadfoot continues to have himself a solid race as he sits currently back in that 8th spot. He's up 10 in total so far tonight from where he started this race at. And if you remember back to the first stage, all the way to where we are now, we have not had one caution for incident up to this point, and that's really kind of become the theme of Tuesday Night Thunder. I know Devin Ray said earlier, the best weekly series, and in terms of the racing product, I'd have to agree. These guys have turned this series into one of the most professionally raced series in the sense of it doesn't come in here and we've got guys who are wrecking balls and we've got cautions every 3 laps for the entire race. I mean, they continue to put together great product week in and week out, and it pays off too. Even for each of the drivers individually. I mean, you look at the start of the season, guys that struggled with pit stops because they just weren't used to having to make a lot of green flag pit stops, to the end of the season, and even where we are tonight, where through both stops that we've had to do on the green so far, I'd say about 70% of the field has got in and out proficiently, and probably 90% of the field has got in and out clean. You look at this lead pack, and it goes all the way back right now to the 26th place position of Trevor Ozrenoff, as everybody else, well, in fact, actually, I say that it actually goes back here, looks like to Matt Lee, who sits in 23rd, and then got a couple guys that are, of course, a lap down. Jared Haynes, who sits in 24th. Leave, is he the first guy sitting a lap down? No, he's not a lap down, but he's lost touch with the draft, as does Mark Vondell. Trevor Ozrenoff is currently the first man a lap down, and he only sits one down. Just behind him, though, Nathan Harper, 3 laps down. So if we get a caution, Trevor Ozrenoff, as long as he's not in the wreck, would, of course, get that lucky dog position. Speaking of having good runs for non-playoff drivers, up 5 from where he started, it's Landon Veliky. As right now he runs in that 7th spot. He's up, well, going to be up 8 here in a minute from where he started, if he's able to get himself all the way towards the front. But I'm looking around here at some of the incidents that I said. I know I said we didn't have any actual incidents, but getting onto the pits, I think a couple people may have had some issues here. I'm going to go back here and look at the pit stop for the first group here. And this was actually back a little bit further than this right here. For Trevor Ozrenoff, I'm assuming he got some sort of penalty coming in here. And he had to have lost the pack the way he did. Let's see what the entry looked like here. Is maybe he didn't. Trevor had a separate issue. I don't know what happened here, but he just came in early there so that he could get grouped up with the pack, but didn't actually have any trouble getting on the pits that time. 24 laps to go here at Talladega in a cutoff race for Tuesday Night Thunder, where Matthew Baker leads the way, Garrett Maines in 2nd, and then you've got Andrew Navarro 3rd, Jeff Merck in 4th, and Mike Davenport rounding out your top 5. And again, if you're just tuning in, we certainly appreciate you being here. Hope you're having a good Tuesday evening. As there's number 2 for Matthew Baker. Boy, he looks pretty tensed up as he currently runs on the inside of Garrett Maines. He is trying everything to make sure that he holds that steady wheel as he's getting pushed from out back by Andrew Navarro. Navarro, of course, has to stay on his back bumper for those two to maintain any sort of momentum, but he's got to cool, and that's why you see the leader always trying to rotate lanes to keep both lines cool and be able to keep themselves in the lead. There's almost like an art to it, but as you get later in the race, guys start to get a little bit more and more impatient with letting somebody drop down, move up, drop down, unless it's a teammate. So I would say we still got a ways to go, but at some point here, I think that you're going to see the 2 lead pushers there of Navarro and Merck start pushing their guys a lot harder here to try to keep either one from being able to jump up in front of the other. Well, track temp since the start of this race, as the cloud cover's kind of been on and off, has not really changed. Still sitting at 104. Sim time has been set and frozen at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I think the only thing that's made the handling a bit of an issue right now is the fact that these tires are starting to get worn out. They've been on them for a while. Nobody has had the chance to take 4 yet in this final stage. So you've seen a couple people darting around, and then especially out of the trial, I've seen a couple guys, especially on that inside line, get a little bit loose. Broadfoot just a lap ago. So you got to be careful. It doesn't take much to get these cars to step out. As speaking of step out, looks like Richard Elliott's going to step to the outside, and he's going to fall back as the 78 of Evan Carlbon and Kenneth Stamper are both going to drive by. Good recovery for Kenneth Stamper here tonight after contact between him and his teammate Trevor Ozrenoff early on during a pit stop that gave Kenneth some damage and caused him to lose the draft. But since then, he's recovered, been able to get all that damage hammered out, and now he finds himself running back inside the top 15. So 2x2 still down the Alabama gang back straight away with just 21 laps to go. Again, expecting that final pit stop right around 15 laps to go. And then it's going to be the mad dash and the sprint to the finish from there. But if you're Matthew Baker, what are you thinking right now? I mean, again, well, I should say I know what he's thinking right now. He came in with such a points gap, maybe not over Garrett, but in terms of that cut line, as did Garrett Maines, that he probably cares less if he wrecks here tonight because he's still going to be able to get into the championship four even if he does wreck out. So he's going to be going for it all the way to the finish, as is Garrett. But then, like I said, you got guys who are desperate for a win. You got guys that probably just looking for a good finish. I think Michael Triscaro might actually be the only driver that is just simply looking for a good finish. I think everybody else is looking for a win. I mean, in Garrett Main and Matthew Baker's case, of course, they're looking for a win because, I mean, why not? They've got nothing to lose. But then you go back to a Logan York or some of the guys who are just below the cut line, even the guys who are way below the cut line, a win would eliminate any of those questions. But they've still got to contend with, again, one more green flag pit stop, which is going to be deemed the money stop because it's what it's all going to come down to. If you get it right, so you're going to have a chance at this thing. If you mess it up, your race could be over because we have not seen a caution so far, and we may not see one here potentially for the rest of this race. 19 laps to go. And with just 19 to go here, Dawson Wise looks like he's off in the chat, says Baker is good to go based on his win last week. That's right. And I forgot about the winning you're in. I think I just got wrapped up in the fact that Baker had so many wins at this point. Didn't account for the fact that that win technically did lock him in last week, although I think he would have been pretty close to it nonetheless. And so with just going to be 18 laps to go, it looks like, when they cross the stripe this next time, everybody needs to start thinking about filing down to the inside. And you don't want to wait till that last lap and have to pit from the outside. It's not an easy thing to do here, and that's usually when you can get yourself caught up in some trouble. But I mean, still, the fact that we've got 23 cars all within a second and a half of each other, and you can just see a 30-car field at this late in the season, this point in the playoffs, makes you wonder what we could be looking at next season at the start of the regular season. Garrett Maines has found his way to the inside, and see if he's content to stay there here for the next 2 to 3 laps. Daniel Eberhardt, by the way, who dropped back, is still in the outside line. Now, there is, of course, the strategy play of maybe if you stayed back, saved a little fuel, is, ooh, hold on. So check it up towards the middle of the portion of the pack. We got one on the apron here. Looks like it's Brock Westmoreland in the 31. He's going to be able to regroup and get back on track. He needs to get back up quick, though, here. If he loses this draft, that could be trouble. I think he's going to be okay as Ken McCullough Jr. jumps down. Joshua McCullough will do the same. But instead of single filing down, now they're going to fan out 3 wide here. Landon Velicki stuck in the middle in the 62, waiting some help from Logan York. Daniel Eberhardt's now got to look to the top as well. Richard Elliott leads that third line. Jeff Merck leads the middle, and Garrett Maines leads the bottom. Richard Elliott, I think he's going to get clear to the middle here, and I would expect him to drop down. See if he does. So there he goes. So as Merck drops to the middle, Dylan Jones will now get a chance to cool down up top. Garrett Maines still leads the inside, but they're going to be coming to 16 to go. And again, I'm thinking 16 to 15 or 15 to 14, maybe 14 to 13. Any 3 of those laps is when these guys can make the pit stops. But I mean, they can't make them fan out 3 wide like this, so something's going to have to give here. Either guys are going to have to start letting each other in, or this middle and third line are getting ready to die and fall all the way to the back. By the way, again, 3 green white checkers if we need them here tonight. Remember, the rule for that is this race will not be official until we get to the white flag. So I know right now the storyline is this pit stop and who's going to get through and who isn't. But even after that, that's when we're going to, I think, really have to pay attention to the points and see where everybody's set up and what each person's going to have to try to do. But Michael Triscaro, he's already got a win this season, and he's been hanging strong here tonight. Been working in a couple different lanes with a couple different guys, but it seems like NBG's been the most coordinated team, I would say, here tonight. As here we go, pit stops. It's going to peel off quite a bit of them here. Can everybody getting clean? Some money stop. Oh, a lot of lockups. A couple guys getting in hot. Oh, big lockup from Richard Elliott. Stamper does the same, but look at that. 4 or 5 wide, and they all figure it out yet again. I don't know how they keep doing it, but that is the third. I think that's the 3rd green flag stop here tonight for the first group that we've seen go in of 15-plus cars, and nobody's had an issue. What a job. We'll see if everybody can get out clean. You got to be careful here. Taking 2 tires, but they are still very vulnerable to spinning them right now. And looks like as Garrett gets out, he gets out okay. Michael Triscaro, everybody else going to do the same as they try to line up and all find a spot in line. And here comes that second group roaring off of turn number 4. And once they do here, we'll see if they decide to make their stop right here. And sure enough, they will. Dylan Jones is going to lead him on here. As Justin Mills with a bit of a lockup. Watch for the outside as they get in here. Looks like yet again another clean round of stops here for Jones and company. And so they all made that stop with 15 coming to 14 to go. So that group that stayed out that extra lap, they're going to be in a little bit better shape here. We'll see if the guys that pit a lap sooner are good to go or if they have to save a little bit of fuel. But I think everybody that pit right here shouldn't. I think they should be good to go here once they work their way out of the pits all the way to the finish. And so we'll go to the turn 1 cam right there. That's Jared Haynes. Not for position work. Oh, huge hit. Huge hit in the trial. But we had one upside down. That's the 87 of Herbert. Oh, we got cars on Russian. Oh, my goodness. One of them was able to disappear in time. Wow, that was almost disaster for the front pack. Holy smokes. Wow, I was looking to see if we had any reactions right there, as that was a huge hit for Jonathan Herbert. And then when the field arrived, we had a couple cars that were just sitting destroyed in the trial in the middle of the racetrack. Jimmy Emos, I believe, was the other car involved. First caution of the night, and it's for a 2-car incident for 2 guys that were running by themselves. And Jonathan Herbert, Jimmy Emos running side by side here. And let's see here. Well, tell you what, this is one of those kind of tough positions, as a broadcaster, I feel like, because we certainly, we want to be unbiased, or not, I guess I shouldn't say unbiased, but we don't want to, be mean basically here, in the sense of, it's just, you got to kind of ask yourself here, and it is a head scratcher, and I'm sure if the drivers, when they see it, they're going to be saying the same thing. What are we doing? I mean, we're coming to the last 10 laps or so of a race, nowhere near the lead pack, nowhere for position, and we're running 2x2, and then the 67 Emos here, I don't even know what happens, but he washes up the racetrack here. Jonathan Herbert's not doing anything wrong. Like I said, I don't completely understand the 2x2, but, he wasn't doing anything wrong, but Jimmy Emos just drifts up here and gets into the 87, comes across his nose. They both clobber the outside wall. Herbert goes up and over just about, and then right here was where, I was holding my breath. We had somebody that was sitting in the middle of the racetrack here as they arrived on scene, because you could see it from the turn 1 cam, and boy, I was stressing for a minute, because if they would have arrived when, I think it was Jimmy Emos was still stuck kind of in the middle of the racetrack, this would have been, just disaster. Watch this. There's the huge hit, and then watch here as the 67 is sliding to a halt. There's the rest of the field, and they're not going to be able to miss this right here. You can see they're all scattering to try to find a way to do so, but they were not going to be able to miss that. If he would have stayed where he was, you can see that would have been just disaster. That would have took out so many good cars. So certainly good job on Jimmy Emos for that. And like I said, I know it wasn't intentional, obviously, but it's just one of those things where it's going to be frustrating for some of these guys who really wanted to see the race go green the rest of the way, as they're going to be asking themselves, what in the heck are we doing here? As Jimmy just drifting up a little bit, and then there's the hit. As, man, that was a huge shot for Herbert. Get one more look at this here for Jonathan Herbert. As once he gets turned, you can see it just lifts that car right up off the ground, gets onto the driver's side, almost kind of the roofing of the side there where the window net is, and then so those two are going to be most likely done for the night. Herbert may be able to continue, as it looks like he will try, but I think Jimmy Emos is going to be wrapped for his night, as the front end of that race car is completely torn off. All right, so it'll be, looks like either an 11 or 10 lap to go restart, as we'll get ready to go back green. So as we do, looking at the lineup briefly, Dylan Jones, Andrew Navarro making up row 1, Matt Lee, Daniel Eberhardt in row 2, and then Landon Velicky and Joshua McCullough in row 3. Going to take one more quick break right here before we go back green. Stick with us. We'll be back for the restart here on Tuesday Night Thunder.
Green flag is in the air. We are racing. Three by three. Almost no trouble. Around goes Alex Hill. On into the outside wall goes Hill. They're wrecking big time out back. We're not going to throw a caution. Finish. Who gets it in the line? Cody Nagels wins it at Talladega.
Welcome back to race 15, cutoff race for Tuesday Night Thunder as we get ready to go back green for potentially the final time. It's going to be a 10-lap shootout all the way to the finish here with Dylan Jones up front. And now we set the stage for who needs what. Looking up front, Navarro, he needs a decent run based off of course, what points we're looking like for him. He currently is outside looking in, so a win would fix that problem for him. And then we've got a couple others that are going to be in the same boat. Green flag is back in the air. 10 laps to go at Talladega. Good restart for the inside and the outside. Again, Navarro, one of the guys who needs good runs, as does Jason Maines. He is going to need a win to find himself in. Michael Trasquero just looking for a decent finish and hoping that there's not one of those guys that was way outside the cut line that wins. Is who knows, that could potentially put him in jeopardy depending on how Logan York finishes. Logan York right now, he's got some work to do. He's back in 15th. He needs to start going to the front. That's exactly what he's going to do. Kenneth Stamper in the 30. The 02 is going to bail. Tried to see if the 30 would go 3 wide. He didn't. Then we go even further back. Brock Westmoreland, another driver who needs a win. Matthew Baker, Garrett Maines, neither of those two need a win, but they'd like to find their way back to the front to potentially get some extra money here tonight. Third lane ready to get going. We're going to get 3 that go up top. Looks like it's going to be Kenneth Stamper along with Richard Elliott, and it was the 22 of Broadfoot, but he's going to bail on that lane. Stamper does as well now. 9 laps to go up front. Jones with a big push off the back front bumper of Andrew Navarro. That gets him clear. Field coming up on the 87 of Jonathan Herbert. This is going to split them all 3 wide just briefly. 87 staying way up high, well out of the way. Going to go 4 wide. Oh, Richard Elliott. Oh, he almost made contact there and got himself turned around, but he's able to split the needle, thread the needle, if you will. Logan York trapped on the bottom of that 02. Keep an eye. The blue and black machine. He's got to find a way to get up here. He's just behind Jeff Merck. Merck in decent position right now by running in front of Logan. Again, there's just so many scenarios that can work out right here. And it all depends on, again, who wins it. If Navarro wins this race with the way he's running right now, I mean, that changes everything in the sense of he's in. That pushes Logan York out. But then if York is able to find a way to get ahead of Trasquero, because he was only 1 point behind coming in, then that pushes Trasquero out. If Merck has a really good run, maybe pushes both of them out. I mean, there's just so many things that can happen here, and you don't really know until it's over. So this is why you just, like Logan York said, you got to have the mindset of just go for the win, because you try to point your way in, and that's when things can happen. Is here we go, going to make some things happen on the outside. Garrett Maines tried to throw a block on the 12 there. Couldn't quite make it happen in time of Eckert, but Eckert's not going to have enough support to go too far right now, as the 55 of Davenport's out there as well. And I think if Garrett tries to make a move, Michael Trasquero is going to try to see if he can cover it. That would be a really good pusher to have behind you, but you got to set it up right. If he gets split, that could bury Michael Trasquero and potentially put him in a bad position for the rest of this race. 7 laps to go now. Oh man, almost contact on the top of the racetrack there as Stamper wiggled up a little bit. Almost got into the 12 there of Eckert. Still 2x2 up front. Navarro continues to manage the lanes with Dylan Jones. Big momentum down the backstretch. That'll get Navarro back clear as he jumps down. And how about Daniel Eberhard up front? McCullough Motorsports has a couple of drivers that have broken into the top 10 now as well. Joshua McCullough second on the outside. David Sheets, he's in the top 10 right now as well on the inside. 3 wide, almost 4 wide here. What's the 12 going to do? He is going to look 4 wide. Oh boy, hold your breath here. 4 wide in the middle portions of the pack. How long can this work? Everybody looking for any track position they can get. They're now going to get back down to 3x3 here. Still, looks like the 12 is looking for 4 wide. Now Mike Davenport's going to split him. He'll be able to get by 3 wide now with Mark Von Dell, and that was just kind of a big clustered mess that really led to no momentum for this third lane being formed up. Joshua McCullough going to look high. I think he ran out of temps, and that's going to pull a couple of these other guys. We'll see, does Logan York, Jeff Merck, any of them decide to jump up top right here? Doesn't look like it. I think Logan maybe should take it here, but he's not going to be able to now, as Mike Davenport closes that gap up. Matthew Baker still trying to get to the back bumper of Kenneth Stamper right here. Nothing doing just yet. They'll be coming to a handful to go. 5 laps to go here as they cross the start-finish line. Dylan Jones still leads on that outside. It's Matt Lee now leading on the inside. How about Landon Velicky? I know he's not a playoff driver, but if he could snag a win here tonight, be his first win of the season and a very impressive win at that. The 4 of Justin Mills for BAR. The 12 of Jason Maines. Here comes the 05 of Joshua McCullough again on that third lane. They've been trying, and I think the temps are doing okay for the middle and the inside, which is making it tough, but I think more than anything, they just have not got organized long enough. Oh, they're going to wreck big time. The big one is going to strike here at Talladega with 5 to go. As it looked like Jason Maines got turned, and now they're all going to pile in. Huge hit for some of the playoff drivers. Jason is destroyed. Jeff Merck's got damage. Christopher McCullough's involved. Well, we're going to have to see just how bad it is here for Jeff Merck. That's going to shift some things around for sure. There's Christopher McCullough. The rear end's ripped off. Mark Von Dell's got some damage as well. Richard Elliott's going to bring it down for repairs. Ooh, Jason's steering might be broke. If it is, that's, well, I think his night's done. Well, that's unfortunate because that is going to officially end Jason Maines' chances of making it to the championship 4. This car is destroyed. Yeah, you see the right front there. That's what all the damage is. As he's trying to figure out a way to get this thing steering, but it is certainly not one to cooperate too well. Is it the right front there? It might be the left front. It's banged up. Yeah, you can see it just wobbling around there. Sparks out of the bottom. All right, well, let's go back and see what sparked the big one here. Again, they were running really, really tight here, and I think it's going to be something with Mike Davenport and Jeff Merck. I was watching when they get into the corner here. Yeah, Davenport comes down for sure. At least is what it looks like from the TV3 view. We'll look at the chopper view. And so there's the 55 Davenport up top as they get into corner right here. Davenport, I think he's just trying to follow this lane, trying to stay behind Baker, but I mean, that lane, I said they were running really tight, so when Davenport goes down to try to get back in line behind Baker, he just gets into Jeff Merck here, and Merck doing nothing wrong, and when Davenport gets into him, that turns the 60 down into Jason Maines, who gets hooked up the racetrack. He T-bones Davenport. They all pile up into the wall. See the 12 of Eckert with nowhere to go. The 22 of Broadfoot, he's going to get involved. And then there's the 60 of Merck further up, as he's kind of pinned against a couple different cars. Christopher McCullough slides into the outside wall, as does Mark Von Dell. Logan York didn't see that initially, but it looks like the rear bumper of his car gets ripped off. Brock Westerlund with some damage. I mean, this was a lot of the guys who were in the round of 8 that sustained damage from this one. So we'll see if we can get a couple more angles of the initial contact here between Davenport and Merck. And again, it's not much, but it doesn't take much. And then there's nowhere to hide here once they start piling in. Jason Maines, boy, he took a huge hit a couple different times as Ethan Eckert had nowhere to go. And Broadfoot got tangled up and kind of stuck together. And then at this point, you can see the sparks. Once you break suspension in a race with no fast pair, you're pretty much done. And to be honest, I think what this is actually going to do is clear up some of the questions regarding the playoff picture, because we've eliminated some of the guys that were outside looking in. And so if you're, Michael Triscaro, it certainly helps you out a lot, and maybe a couple other guys. But we'll just see if we could get another angle of this here, potentially from, let's go to the turn 3 entry here and look through 3 and 4. Give you one more angle of this here from TV1. So all in all, looked like it collected somewhere between 10 and 15 cars, with, again, decent majority of those being playoff contenders. All right, so now, as we'll go back up front first to set what it's looking like here for our first overtime attempt. Dylan Jones leads the way, Andrew Navarro in second, Daniel Eberhardt in third, Matt Lee fourth, and looks like Joshua McCullough running out your top 5. All right, so if you look on the scoring tower there and some of the P's representing the playoff drivers and where they sit now, Jason Maines, he is out of this race. He will not advance. You look at Jeff Merck, the damage he sustained, unless he makes it back out and the other two get in a really bad wreck. Well, I say if. Jeff Merck did make it back out, and this thing is still running, so I'm not going to count the 60 out just yet. We've seen some vicious last lap crashes, and all things considered, this thing doesn't look to be too torn up, so we'll see what Jeff Merck can do here. But then I'm looking at Logan York and what damage he sustained here. Looks like they were able to get the rear bumper back on that car. Not sure how much speed it has, but he needs, realistically, at least with where Michael Triscaro is running right now, I think York's going to have to try something different here. He's going to have to find a way to try to get to the front or hope Triscaro wrecks out. So all in all here, I mean, I guess it didn't end as many playoff chances as we initially thought. I mean, Brock Westerlund, he's still there. Now, of course, Brock is going to need a win most likely with how far back he is. So still a lot of things that need to go right for the 31. But I would say that Logan York still has a chance. Jeff Merck still has a chance. And, of course, Andrew Navarro has a great chance still with where he currently runs. As of right now, all we know, the one guy who's locked in, of course, Matthew Baker, and we can pretty much assume that by now Garrett Maines is locked in via points. All right, so it's going to be a 2-lap shootout. We are going to have to make it to the white flag for this race to be official. If we pile them up on that first lap, then we will rack them up and try it again. So who is going to get the job done here tonight? Andrew Navarro on the outside has found speed late and found a way to control this field, but Jones is looking to try to play spoiler. Daniel Eberhardt in the same boat as well. A lot of non-playoff drivers within the top 10 now, all looking to see if they can cash in on the weekly payouts here tonight. We'll see if Eberhardt maybe decides to help out Navarro here, maybe pushes him. See if those two are working together. Here we go, back into the Geico restart zone.
Green, green, green.
75 laps complete. Time to go a couple more. Green flag back in the air. Overtime underway at Talladega. Good start for the inside. Dylan Jones is going to pull to about a car length lead before they get down to turn number 1. Got to be careful whenever you get that lead on the inside going into 1. It means the outside is going to have a big run on the outside down the backstretch. So far, so good. Looks like everybody has managed to keep it clean. Logan York in the back looking to dice things around. He's looking to see if he can throw a block on Brandon Broadfoot. He's not going to be able to do it. Those two wiggled. We're going to be flipping these cameras back and forth, trying to keep an eye on the guys who need to get to the front. Logan York, that damage, it's hurting him right now. Broadfoot, I think he's trying to help him, but I just don't know if it's going to be enough. This could all come down to the last lap as here goes Matthew Baker. He's going to look to the outside with Garrett Maines. Matthew Lee on the inside, Dylan Jones on the outside. Coming through the trial, well, are they going to make it? Yes, they will. White flag is in the air. 1 lap to go at Talladega. Matt Lee looking for his second win of the season. Dylan Jones looking to see if he can hold on here. Navarro maybe going to need a win to get in. What's he willing to do? Who will Eberhardt work with? Now Mills is going to jump to the high side. 3 wide down the back. Lee got to shuffle that line. Oh, Jones is going to get turned. Jones gets turned. Now Navarro goes around. Navarro gets, oh my goodness, they saved it. Navarro holds on, but he's going to lose all his help. Now they're going to wreck. Daniel Eberhardt, oh, they're wrecking big up front. Jones is around. A couple others as now it's a blocking battle for Justin Mills. Mills is going to try to hold off Matthew Baker. Baker looking to see if he can find a way to get to victory lane yet again. Final gas off a turn 4. Does Baker have one more run for him? Baker's going to look to the outside. Mills not able to throw the block. Sheets is going to go back low. Sheets is going to push Mills, but up top landed Velicki. 3 wide drag race. Matthew Baker wins it. Matthew Baker wins it at the line with no help. What a win. He tacks on another one. And a second reaction here from Michael Triscaro as I think he realizes he's good to go on points. Wow, what a finish. 7 wins on the season now for Matthew Baker with this one here tonight. And I mean, this will easily, I think, go down as the winningest season for a driver we have ever seen in Tuesday Night Thunder history, and maybe for the rest of Tuesday Night Thunder in the future. I mean, he has just continued to deliver each and every race, and now he'll bring it around to celebrate. But boy, what a crazy sequence of last lap events that went on right there. And let's go back and look at him here. All right, so this was going to take the white flag, and we're going to go all the way through because there was just so many different things that happened through this. Andrew Navarro, by the way, finished 10th. So it's all going to start here down the backstretch. Navarro had been pushing Dylan Jones for a little while here, and the inside actually starts to surge. And watch Matt Lee here. I think him and Joshua McCullough, yep, just get a little bit offset coming off of turn number 1. And that turns Matt Lee around a little bit. Now it's Dylan Jones who gets turned around. Is actually, well, that's weird. Look at that. Andrew Navarro's pushed him. Navarro's got him pretty straight, but Navarro ends up getting inside the bumper here of Dylan Jones. Well, actually, he did hit him a little bit crooked. That's what got it that way. But then right there, and so now you've got pieces flying. Navarro loses his rear bumper. I thought here it was over. I mean, this was a wreck. This was a wreck that just did not happen. They somehow all save it. And then as they're all trying to gather back up to get back on track, it's just not going to work. They eventually all run each other out of room here, and the Stamper comes up, gets in Eberhard, and he shoots back down. Now the wreck's on. See a couple get turned down the racetrack. Navarro actually didn't wreck there, but took a lot of them out of it here, and then back up front we go. And Baker trying to time this one up the best he could. Gets a run on Justin Mills, goes to the outside. Sheets goes with him and then says psych, goes back to the inside. And when he does, right here, I thought this was it. I thought that Sheets was going to be able to push the 4 of Mills all the way to the finish. I don't know if they don't get lined up what the deal is. You can see the 62 of Velicki splits 3 wide. So I think that's what cost him right there, is when Justin Mills goes high to get into Baker there. I don't know if he had help. He very well may have, but I think if he's able to just stay tucked to the inside there, he's got enough of a push to hold on. But watch this here as Justin Mills right here. He gets high. Again, I'm not sure if there was some contact or what, but when he gets high there, I think that's what allowed Baker to have just enough momentum to get the job done. Is, again, he didn't have any push. Mills did on the bottom, but man, what a finish. We'll have to look at the official margin of victory right there. That's about the closest frame we can get. And it looks like the official scoring has it at 1/100th of a second for Matthew Baker. All right, we'll take a look at your finishing results here on the night as Matthew Baker again tacks on his 7th win. Justin Mills brings home 2nd. Landon Velicki in 3rd, David Sheets in 4th, Ken McCullough Jr. in 5th. Garrett Maines back in 6th, Brock Westphal in 7th, Daniel Eberhardt in 8th with Evan Carlbon in 9th, and Andrew Navarro rounding out your top 10. Michael Triscaro finishes 11th, Jeff Merck in 12th, Jared Haynes 13th with Trevor Osnoth in 14th, Joshua McCullough 15th, Dylan Jones in 16th, Logan York in 17th, Brandon Broadfoot finishes back in 18th. Rounding out your top 20 here tonight is Christopher McCullough and looks like Richard Elliott. Matt Lee finishes 21st. Mike Davenport 22nd. Mark Vondell 23rd. Kenneth Stamper 24th. Jonathan Herbert in 25th. Jason Maines 26th with Ethan Eckert 27th. Nathan Harper 28th. Jimmy Emos in 29th. And Tucker McClendon rounding out your top 30. All right, so based off those results, before we get interviews here, I want to try to give you a brief idea of what, and again, I'm not as good with the math as Dawson is in terms of calculating all the points and whatnot, but this is what I have is what I believe is going to be the championship 4 as it stands right now. Matthew Baker, of course, he was already locked in, but I guess if there was any doubters out there, those doubts have been turned aside. He is going to be the leader going into the championship 4. Garrett Maines will also advance to the championship 4. Michael Triscaro, with his finish in 11th place, well, let's see here. Yeah, Michael Triscaro should advance based off where he finished. Brock Westerlund really needed to win, so Brock doesn't look like he'll advance. And then Navarro, I think, may have it would have been close if Navarro would have been able to get in for that last spot over York if he would have finished in the top 2, maybe even 1, of course. But by not winning and Logan York finishing in 17th, Navarro's 10th, I believe, looking at points here, well, it's going to be close. It's going to be really, really close on who. Because, yeah, Navarro was 8 points back. It's close, but I believe, and again, don't quote me on this, I believe Logan York may have snuck in. So that 4th and final spot's going to be the only one of question. But for now, what I have is Matthew Baker, Garrett Maines, Michael Triscaro, and Logan York as your final 4, with Navarro finishing just outside that cut line. Jeff Merck, maybe actually finished. Well, can't count out Jeff. Jeff finished in 12th, and he was just 2 points behind Logan. So actually, Jeff may have snuck in. Jeff Merck may have snuck in that final spot. Man, it's going to be so close. We'll see if we can get maybe word with Matthew Baker. I know he's probably calculating points for his teammate as we speak. So we'll see if we can get an idea from him as we talk to him in his interview, which, speaking of, we're going to go get your top 3. Stick with us here at Talladega. All right, going to get things kicked off tonight with your 3rd place finisher, Landon Velicky. Landon, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir, I do.
Well, what a finish here tonight, man. You had a shot at it there coming to the line, 3 wide. Nonetheless, you bring home a podium finish. And I'll tell you what, for a non-playoff guy, you were up there hanging with all the big boys tonight. How did it feel, and what was the strategy that allowed you to perform all night?
Oh, that ending was insane. I can't even explain. Everything, the seas just parted for me, I guess. Ended up 3rd somehow coming to the line. That was so much fun at the end. The strategy, that was... I didn't realize it'd be such a fuel-saving race. I didn't realize we'd have to stop like 3 times, but it all ended up working out. I managed to miss the pit road cautions and all that. That was just... That was such a fun race, and I'm so glad to be a part of it.
Well, you're part of a great finish, and you're going to be part of a pretty good payout here tonight as well. But, you know, I know a couple people are probably wondering there, coming down towards the end, you had the option to either push somebody or stay in line. You decided to make the move, and, you know, it's important to gain momentum whenever you can get it. And coming into the series, not being a full-time driver, how have you kind of had to adapt, even here tonight, not having teammates?
Well, I mean, I don't want to do anything great. I don't want to mess up the playoff guys, not at all. And I mean, I do have teammates out there with One Stop, Jared Haynes. He was with me in that, but he got in one of those crashes there at the end. So I was just going out there trying to make friends. You know, that's what I've been doing the whole time, and I've made a lot of friends so far, which has helped me a ton. Yeah, I mean it's. I went to the top thinking I might have had a run, but, you know, in that situation, you're so tunnel visioned, you can't, you know, you don't know where anyone's at, really. You just see what's in front of you. You try to go for it, and I tried to go for it, and I got 3rd out of it, which worked. I thought I had a chance to win, but it's all right. I'll take 3rd.
Yeah, you got to go for it, and that you did. Well, hey, before we let you head out here tonight to enjoy your winnings, is there anyone you'd like to thank or shout out?
Oh, One Stop Motorsports, putting that back together has been awesome. The Jason Maines, who's been wanting to work with me a little bit recently, that's been great too. It's an honor, really, to be kind of picked out by him. You want to work with me, you know. KSR for introducing me to all this to begin with. Yeah, I mean, that just everyone in the scene is so much such a fun scene to be a part of. I said this last night too. It's just so enjoyable to be on here and race with these guys basically every night at this point. Yeah, all my friends, family, support, the support's awesome. Love that. Yeah.
Well, fun to be part of the community, and a lot funner when you're winning money. Congrats on the third place finish, and hopefully we'll see you out here next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, and now that'll bring us to your winners. It doesn't look like we were able to get Justin Mills in the it doesn't look like we were able to get Justin Mills in the Discord channel, so we'll move straight to tonight's winner, Matthew Baker. Baker, this is awesome in the booth. You got a copy.
Yeah, I got you, buddy.
Well, 7th win of the season. You didn't need one here tonight to lock yourself in, but you did it anyway. So I guess if there was any doubters, we've turned those away. So, I mean, what was going through I can't even believe you held on to the win. It looked like you didn't have help, and somehow you had enough momentum. How did you make that move coming to the line, and how were you able to just get a nose out in front?
I watched Garrett. He was able to side draft Merck a lot on the bottom lane. We were trying to get Merck his lap led to get him another point for the championship, but Garrett just kept side drafting the top lane, and was able to pull it out. And I saw Sheets with the run. I knew he was going to try and get to my outside. I made the move up with him, and he went back down to Mills. What I think happened is when he got to Mills, he just had such a run, he had to lift, so he couldn't get connected and get that momentum up, and I used that momentum on the high side with the side draft to get it. But me and Mills had a run in back in January, and they're coming to the end. Everyone was 3 wide, and I just said, you know what, man, just go for it. Why not? Send it to the high side. Went over the open comms, and he went up there, and they all had Calamity in front of us. I was just trying to get him to a cash spot or a better finish, but it worked out way better than I thought it was going to.
Yes, certainly did. As again, you are now the winningest driver in any season of Tuesday Night Thunder history, so congrats on that. And next week, we head off to the championship. How are you going to prepare for that one with all the money that's on the line?
Oh gosh, I don't know if unofficial right now, but it looks like it's going to be top 4 is going to be myself, Garrett, Triscaro, and Merck. So, it just is a testament to the teamwork, and you saw it last week with Merck and Mike getting me the win on Daytona on the high side. But we're going to be looking in 2 weeks to do the same thing. Not put our car in a position to be out of it early. Keep our cars underneath of us, work as a team, and at the end of the day, try and go get that championship. I'd love to win the championship. I feel like I deserve it, but anyone on our team deserves it. Garrett deserves it as well. I mean, we were joking around in this chat. Every time he wins a stage, he's got 7 stage wins. Every stage he wins, I win the race. So hopefully Ron gives us a stage. That way he can go out there and win it, and maybe I could take home the win.
Yeah, well, momentum has certainly been on your side, so I don't see any reason that you wouldn't be the favorite going into next week. Well, before we let you head out here tonight, is there anyone you'd like to thank or shout out?
Yeah, just, of course, thanks to Coasting Thunder, MBG Motorsports, Baker & Son Construction, Martin Sports, PGR. We got the SummerSlam coming up. Make sure everyone's getting signed up for that. Really excited for it. 1,000 guaranteed to the winner. Getting sponsors hopping on board. We got Prime possibly hopping on board here, so it's good to get some sponsorship for that race, and thanks to the family watching back at home, Mom, Grandma. Katie's probably asleep. I'll go wake her up again like I did last week, tell her what happened, and thanks to the boys watching for watching the race as well, out in VP8. Love you guys, and thanks for putting on the broadcast, Austin. It's always good.
Thank you, of course, for talking to us. Hey, well, congrats on not just a win, but your 8th win of the season, I believe it is now. So we'll see you next week. 7th win of the season, and we'll see if well, you see if we get number 8 next week.
Hell yeah. Thanks, buddy.
All right, there you go, Matthew Baker. Well, that's just about going to wrap up coverage here tonight. What a great race it was. Phenomenal finish. And, yeah, Jeff Merck almost sneaked out of the playoff picture, but he was able to sneak back in even after being in that late wreck. So I think that top 4, Matthew Baker said, checks out for what I got too, especially for the top 3. And then that 4th spot that we were a little uncertain on, that sounds about right. Again, next week, let me correct this. Not next week. In fact, we take a week off, double checking the schedule. So don't be out here next week. We won't have anything. It'll be July 9th that we will be back out. We'll be at Talladega Superspeedway for 100 laps. That will be the championship race. Everybody gets an off week, including drivers, to get ready for the big money that will be on the line there. All right, that'll do it for me, Austin Green, here on PGR eSports. Again, thank you all so much for tuning out. Until next time, have a good night.